to be able to have our audience experience music in a different way. It's something that's always in my head. Seeing concerts happening within games, the Ariana Grande concert in Fortnite, that was like just mind blowing. Video games were, to me as a kid, like video games were an escape. At the same time, it helped me learn to work with other people in a different way, to figure things out while just being fun. I have an 11-year-old daughter who's really into Fortnite, Genshin Impact, and just Pokemon. I played Pokemon Go with her for a year straight. So I'm not even like a huge gamer, to be honest. Mithra in our group, Epik High, he's the big gamer. I rarely played, but because my kid is so into it, like I hang out with her in real life, and also in a gas station inside Fortnite, hiding from people shooting at us.
Wow. Yeah, because this is going to be for the Washington Post Gaming channel. I'm a video games reporter. I wanted to see if Epik High is going to do more with video games, or do you have any kind of ideas about the future?
Yeah, so the Ariana Grande concert in Fortnite, I saw that with Haru. And that was like just mind blowing, to be able to have our audience experience music in a different way. It's something that's always in my head. I've always wanted to come up with new ways for our audience to get a heightened experience. And seeing concerts happening within games, it was just awesome. So I've had talks with I'm actually in the process of talking to various different gaming platforms to possibly do something like that. And it's, to me, it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's what people commonly refer to as the metaverse, is like going to do a Fortnite or a Roblox concert. Would you be kind of influenced by your daughter's gaming habits when you're deciding which platform you want to perform
on? Yeah, but what she like, her favorite game seems to change every 3 weeks.
Okay.
So I have to keep up with it. One thing for sure though, I like, even if, like, let's say I told the story of what I went through with the whole TaJinYo scandal through a podcast, right? In audio form at the moment. But I feel like one day telling a story like that through a game, where the audience can experience some of what was going on in my mind, and also learn how to overcome it, but through a gaming experience. I think yeah, like, gaming as a form of storytelling has always been, I grew up loving RPG games. And yeah, gaming as a storytelling form is something I've always been interested in. So if anybody's watching, like, hit me up.
Yeah, that would be really cool to do a game from your perspective of going through that. And also, do you mind saying what kind of games you grew up playing? Like, what are some of your favorite games that you can remember from growing up?
So I had the first Game Boy. Before Game Boy Color. People think Game Boy Color is like the first Game Boy. No, I still have it, which is crazy.
Wow.
doesn't work. But yeah, like, so I had Game Boy. I played all the Game Boy games, like, you know, going from Tetris to like Pokemon. I think my first console was like a Sega Genesis. I had to beg and beg and beg, and I got it pretty late. But and then high school, I think it was StarCraft. StarCraft 2? I don't know. Was it StarCraft 1? Yeah, like the first StarCraft, I think. I also, before that, I think I was into Doom, Quake, Final Fantasy, Zelda. So yeah, pretty much everything. And these days I've been playing Fortnite. My kid just made me download Genshin Impact. I have no idea what the hell's going on. I'm still in a forest being led by a floating character, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm just walking the woods constantly. I'll have to wait until she comes and meets me to tell me what I'm supposed to do.
That's very funny. I'm interested in hearing about the technologies that you are looking at for the future. I mean, do you have any thoughts on the metaverse, for instance?
Well, see, the metaverse as a term isn't something that I'm really, I don't really like it, because I feel like it's a marketing term that's being thrown around. You know, it's a great term for new companies to raise funding, right? It's a great keyword also to be thrown around in media, but you know, what does it really mean? It means different things to different people. I mean, technically, we've all been living in the metaverse, right? Right now, I'm having an interview with you. I'm having a conversation with you, but I am just being digitally transmitted to you, and so we're actually digital renditions talking to each other right now, right?
Right.
Email, banking, everything we've been doing for the last maybe, like, I don't know, decade or so, ever since the smartphone, almost everything has been digital. So I think the idea of like the metaverse, like we're gonna enter the era of the metaverse where everything's gonna be digital. There's gonna be digital, you know, everything you do is gonna be digital. There's gonna be like digital avatars of yourself. I think that's already happening. Zoom is basically a metaverse. So yeah, I don't really think of it as a new thing. I just think of it as a thing we've already grown accustomed to, and from that point on, it can only expand. It can expand in a positive way or in a negative way, but if it happens, it will happen with inevitability. The future is not something that any one of us can hold back, regardless of our opinions, right? So my focus now is that if it's going to be inevitable, I would like to contribute to it in a way where I affect it positively. Even if I can't change it, or even if I can't redirect it all by myself, like I would like to be one of the people that contributes to it positively. And, you know, I would also like to see, you know, Asian owned brands, just more representation. I think it's, yeah, I think that's the key.
Yeah, speaking of Asian-owned brands, I saw that Epik High is working with Azuki, which is the Asian metaverse brand. I don't know if you can tell me more about that partnership and what are you doing with them?
So I was a fan of an artist named Arnold Sang, who is now more famous as Steamboy. He was a comic book artist. He was one of the art directors for Overwatch. He went full time to Azuki, and then recently Azuki became extremely popular. But we had been talking for quite a while, and they worked on the visuals, some of the visuals for our Coachella set. I just wanted to do something with our set where it's faithful to Coachella being an arts and music festival. We are great at what we do, but we just wanted to make use of that big screen on our stage, where it's not just, just visuals to support our songs, but we might as well use it to put the spotlight on some other Asian artists that are in the space. Yeah, and like the whole thing with like Web 2, Web 3, we haven't had very many Asian American owned brands. I mean, if I asked someone to name a couple, I think they would have a tough time coming up with any at all, honestly, right? And if this metaverse thing really does kick off at some point, I think it would be great to have an awesome Asian owned brand.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And are you planning to work with Azuki at this year's Coachella as well, or what is your kind of plan for the visuals at? I don't know if you can reveal that already, but
I think one distinction that needs to be made though is it's not like Epik High. We're not doing like an NFT drop together. I've noticed that around Coachella, everyone and their moms are dropping NFTs. But what we're doing with Azuki is we're not doing an NFT or doing anything commercial actually. It's a pure art collab. They created original artwork for one of our songs, and it's going to be incorporated into the music and into the experience of the audience there. And that's it. We're not doing any drops or we're not doing a cash grab.
Right.
Simply put, yeah, like that's not where my interest lies. That's not where their interest lies. It's a pure art collab.
Got it. It sounds like you did a lot of research into the metaverse and NFTs and decided that maybe you're not in support of NFTs.
No. I don't have. I actually don't. I don't have. Well, I have opinions, of course. I have opinions about everything, but I don't like to rest on on an opinion about things that I can't predict. This metaverse thing is not this metaverse as it's being discussed is not here yet.
Right.
It's something far off into the future that may or may not happen in the way people envision it. And because it's not something that's actually in front of me, I can't allow myself to have an opinion on it.
Got it.
Because yeah, how can my opinion be right? So instead of having an opinion, I like to watch with interest, and at some point, if I feel like I can contribute to it in a way that is beneficial to our fans and also to the scene itself, then I will. But yeah, I shy away from, not shy away, but I try not to like form an opinion on things that haven't happened. it would be like me saying, like, at the advent of YouTube, if I said, hey, I feel like YouTube is going to become this thing where people post horrible videos, you
Mhm.
know, or like at the advent of social media, if I was like, social media is going to become this place where people, attack people.
Mhm.
So because that's my opinion, I'm gonna, I'm just gonna shun it or ignore it. And
Mhm.
what's interesting is, I don't know if you know my background, but about 10 years ago, I went through one of the uh, biggest, I don't even know what to call it, biggest witch hunts as a result of the internet and social media.
Mhm.
There's actually a podcast by Vice Media that's out right now um, about that incident.
Mhm.
And, I went through that, so I understand the negatives about anything that, about, I understand all the negatives about social media,
Mhm.
like firsthand,
Mhm.
but it's still not enough for me to just simply say something is good or bad.
Right. Yeah, I know what you're referencing. I saw the Vice article about, what happened to you when people started doubting your education and started to spread lies. I don't know, like when you emerge from that, I mean, even now looking back on it, how do you feel about it? And so you're saying are you like neutral on social media?
Well, see, the easy thing for me to do would be, because of my experience, say that the internet is bad,
Mhm.
social media is evil, it's destructive, um, because it was in my case. That's the playing field that everyone is on, regardless of whether or not I like it. It's the playing field that everybody is on, regardless of what I went through, right? And as long as the people I care about, like my audience, is there, I need to be there to constantly, do something positive there.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why I decided to tell my story through that podcast um, after all this time, because I feel like just just stepping away and just ignoring it is irresponsible.
Mhm. Yeah. I know you're also, advocating for mental health, which is something that, within the Korean entertainment industry, is something that has become more of a prominent issue that people notice and talked about in recent years. Um, you know, do you think is like mental health connected to social media as you see it, and do you think about the two of them in connection with each other?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think. I mean, I know you mean it in a good way, but I don't think like I'm like an advocate or
Okay.
because like it's a given.
Mhm.
People's inner worlds matter. And I would like to be happy, and just as much as that, I would like all people to be happy. And when Epik High first started back in 2002, and then we released our album in 2003, our first album dealt with what became mental health.
Mhm.
Uh, we dealt with issues like that. And this was way before that term even popped up.
Mhm.
So it was just a given that um, with our gift, uh, which happened to be music, we would do everything possible to make people happy, make people feel better, um, to show people that they're not alone. That has always been our thesis.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, do you think you tackle those themes again in your most recent album that came out in February? And is it about mental health and is it about loneliness?
Yeah, I think this album that we just released, it may actually be our most personal album. Um, my dad passed away as a result of those crazy things happening that I mentioned. And I never really talked about it, like talked about how I felt in detail until this album. I have a song called Family Portrait that talks about the aftermath of that and what it did to my family. I also have a song called I Hated Myself, which talks about how I was raised, how I was raised to love everyone but me, and to try to achieve things, not out of the desire to do something amazing, but out of the fear of consequence or fear of failure. So yeah, I think it's a very personal album, and I think it's a fitting album for 2022.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about understanding where people are at. Do you think like that there's like a influence of the pandemic on creating this album and thinking about people's mental states?
Most definitely. You know, like, when have we ever gone through the same thing together as people of Earth, honestly, right? It's the first time where we had a common struggle, and unfortunately, you know, there was a lot of negativity that came out of it as well, and you know, it's heartbreaking, but I think it's the first time where people were able to sit down and talk about what they were feeling in a way where the other person fully understood it. So yeah, I think it definitely did affect the way we created the music.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, you talk about you know, things that came out of it. I don't know if you have come out publicly before with a stance on this, but like, you know, there's a rise of like anti-Asian hate crimes. I don't know if there's like, if you have thoughts on that affecting people across the world.
I mean, unfortunately, it's not a new thing, you know. When I first went to Canada, I mean, first day of school, um, I got beat up by, you know, by my new classmates because I couldn't speak English. So it's not a it's you know, we all know it's not a new thing.
Yeah, well, people are finally noticing. It seems like that's the difference. Is that, you know, obviously there's been anti-Asian racism for decades, but this is the time that people finally, you know, have like a hashtag Stop Asian Hate, and they're have a movement behind this.
I've seen, you know, because I'm kind of old now. I've seen moments like this multiple times, but we tend to forget, and then it gets repeated 5-10 years later. You know, it's something that I don't have the answer for. I wish I did.
Well, I also wanted to ask you, you know, so sorry for jumping around the different topics. There's just a lot of things, but you know, you're going to be playing at Coachella this month, right? How are you feeling about that? And yeah.
Very, very excited. I mean, the first time we were at Coachella in 2016, it was sort of like we still didn't really fully understand why we were there. because Korean artists had never been invited there. You know, we were the first. And when before we got there, like when we were first invited, um, we were kind of confused, like why Epik High out of every, you know, group in Korea, like why? So that whole experience was like just strange. You know, we were like, even on stage, we were like awed by the end of the set when it was packed. We were like, why are all these people here to see us? But now that we've experienced it once, I think we can be more focused on the performance itself and just enjoying ourselves a little more. My daughter is gonna come. She's never seen me like at a festival before, and it's, you know, I'm just so happy she's gonna be there to see me. So and I'm also gonna run around with her and watch Harry Styles and Billie Eilish, and it's gonna be fun.
That's really cool. Do you mind saying how old your daughter is now?
She's 11.
Oh, cool.
But she's gonna be turning 12 in May. So she's, you know, it's the last days of being 11. And I took her out of school to be at Coachella.
Wow.
So I'm either the worst dad in the world or the best dad in the world, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. I know we have like almost no time left, but I wanted to ask, you know, if you have any other final thoughts, stuff that you're working on that you wanted to mention or anything like that.
So yeah, we're wrapping up this tour. I just released, well, I took part in a podcast called Authentic, the Story of Tablo. It's not the story of Tablo, it's the story of the internet as we have it and all the crazy things. Some people have called this a K-pop true crime story, which it is. So please check that out. I am also working with some really creative people to create some scripted content. It's a music story, but pretty awesome. If you Google it, you will know. So yeah, just doing various different storytelling projects, and hopefully I'll be able to do something with gaming as well, because yeah, that's where my daughter's attention is. And yeah, I don't want her to just be running around like shooting things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you so much, Tablo. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Oh, where are you right now? Are you like in California or Korea?
I'm in Oakland.
Oh,
I'm in the
okay.
Bay Area. This is near where I went to school. So
Nice.
this is where we're wrapping up the tour.
Oh, got it. I was just there a couple weeks ago, so that's awesome. Okay, great. Well, thanks for your time. All right.
No problem.
Bye.